So this Elon Musk on buying Twitter and turning it into X.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Like 3 or 4 times something Elon Musk came
You've
to
owned
the
X
Joe
for a year
Rogan.
now.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and have a dream that you didn't do it? And your life is infinitely easier?
Well, it's certainly a recipe for trouble, I suppose, or contention.
What was it ultimately that led you to make the decision to do it?
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. That it was just having a bad impact. I think part of it is that it's where it was located, which is downtown San Francisco. And while I think San Francisco is a beautiful city, and we should really fight hard to kind of right the ship of San Francisco, if you walk around downtown San Francisco, right near the FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse. I mean, it's rough. Have you ever been in that area?
Not lately. No,
Yeah.
I've heard.
It's crazy.
I've heard crazy. I've heard you really can't believe it until you actually go there.
You can't believe it until you go there. So you have to say, well, what philosophy led to that outcome? And that philosophy was being piped to Earth. So, philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so that sort of the fallout area would be limited, was effectively given an information weapon.
Wait, I'm actually confused what he's talking
Technology
about.
weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
Mind
It's not
virus.
just propagating the mind virus, but suppressing any opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, in order for the virus to propagate, it must suppress opposing viewpoints. So
Because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you've felt the virus. You know? Yeah. People try to cancel you so many times.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't think you're melodramatic at all. I think it's a. I mean, I don't want to be melodramatic, but it's almost like a death cult.
It's a death cult. No, that is exactly right. It's essentially the extinctionists. Like, it's in the limit. It is that they're propagating the extinction of humanity and civilization. And some people who are like most of the time it's implicit. They don't but sometimes it's explicit. Like there's a guy on the front page of the New York Times who literally has the thing called the Extinctionist Movement, and he was quoted on the front page of the New York Times as saying there are 8 billion people in the world, but it would be better if there were none.
Ooh.
And I'm like, well, buddy, you can start with yourself.
Yeah. Does he have friends? That's always fascinating.
Well,
Here he is. That guy. He looks like he's not long for this earth.
I mean, he's not
Voluntary
young.
human extinction movement. That's hilarious. I'd like to party with that dude. I would
Okay.
just like to like.
That's an explicit version of the death cult.
Yeah, maybe
The
live
extinctionist
long
cult.
and die out.
It's not. The extinction is a word he uses.
Yes.
No, I mean it's not. It's literally a self-description.
Do they
That
cover him
death cult was
glowingly?
in charge of social media,
Yeah.
and still largely is at Google and Facebook, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not in favor of human extinction. They are, and they can go to hell.
Well, that guy is
Yeah, he can go to hell.
I don't think anyone would be in favor of human extinction.
silly. I
well,
would like to hang
it's-
out with him though. I would like to find out what makes him tick. I bet that guy's fascinating.
Well,
If you get him alone for a few days,
I'm in
dig
favor of. I'm pro-environment, but in the limit, if you take environmentalism to an extreme, you start to view humanity as a plague on the surface of the earth, like a mold or something.
Right.
But this is actually false. The Earth could take probably 10 times the current civilization. The population could be, you could 10x the population without destroying the rainforest. So the environmental movement, and I'm an environmentalist, has gone too far. They've gone way too far. If you start thinking that humans are bad, then the natural conclusion is humans should die out. Now, I'm headed to an international sort of AI safety conference later tonight, leaving in about 3 hours. I meet with the British Prime Minister and a number of other people. So you have to say, like, how could AI go wrong? Well, if AI gets programmed by the extinctionists, its utility function will be the extinction of humanity. So I mean, there are times when masks are warranted, but most of the time it's actually counterproductive.
Well, that was one of the things about the old Twitter was the propaganda and the adherence to whatever the CDC was saying and the dismissing of legitimate scientists, guys like Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford and legit guys.
Yes.
And they were suppressing them and even banning them. They banned Alex Berenson. I mean, it was wild. They banned Alex for essentially reading peer-reviewed papers.
Yeah. No, I mean, all Twitter was basically an arm of the government.
Yeah.
So
was that shocking? Like, what was that like? Because that, to me, that was the most bizarre, was the Twitter files. When you let Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi and all those guys get in the Twitter, and the response where Matt Taibbi gets audited. I mean, which is just wild. I mean, it's just so blatant and so in your face.
yeah, it's weird. No, I mean, the degree which,
So right then,
and by the way, Jack didn't really
files.
know this, but the degree which Twitter was simply an arm of the government was not well understood by the public. And it was whatever the official government. I mean, it was like Pravda, basically. A state publication is the way to think of old Twitter. It's a state publication.
And was the justification from their perspective that they are progressive liberals, they have the right intentions, it's important that they stay in power, the progressive liberals stay in government and power because this is their...
There was basically oppression of any views that would even, I would say, be considered middle of the road. But certainly anything on the right. I'm not talking about like far right. I'm just talking mildly right. The people like Republicans were suppressed at 10 times the rate of Democrats. Now that's because old Twitter was fundamentally controlled by the far left. It was like completely controlled by the far left, and that's why I say like San Francisco Berkeley is a niche ideology. It's hard to say like is there a place that's more far left than San Francisco Berkeley?
Maybe Portland.
But it's
Right there.
Yeah, it's like it's
Basically
those two
And
places.
now there are no fascist stuffs on Twitter.
Places are the most far left places in America.
Yes.
So from their standpoint, everything is to the right, including moderates.
Right.
It depends on who's controlling the Twitter, right?
Right.
So but now, if you internalize a far left position, everything seems wrong to you that is not far left.
Right.
And so they naturally oppressed anything that didn't agree with their views. That's why I say that it was an accidental far left information weapon. So because it's like Silicon Valley attracts the smartest engineers, the smartest technologists and programmers from around the world. They created an information weapon that was then harnessed by the far left, who could not themselves create the weapon, but happened to be co-located where the technologists were.
It happened to be aligned politically with the people that possessed it.
The technologists generally are moderate, maybe moderate left. But they're not far left. That's why I say San Francisco, Berkeley. It doesn't even extend to South San Francisco or even to Palo Alto. So SF Berkeley is the most far left. Perhaps in competition with Portland, but I'd say SF Berkeley is more far left even than Portland. Like literally in America, we're talking about an area that's maybe a 10-mile radius. And so normally the negative effects of a far left ideology would be geographically limited to a 10-mile radius. That's like it's small. So any bad effects of that ideology would be geographically constrained under normal circumstances and have been in the past. But when you have basically a technological megaphone, which was Twitter and social media in general, suddenly the far left are handed a megaphone to Earth, an incredibly powerful technology weapon that they themselves could not create, but they happen to be co-located with the technologists who created it by accident.
Is it shocking that more people don't understand how dangerous that is?
I think some people understand.
Some people do.
Some people understand. So, I mean, from the standpoint of some people who use Twitter, people are like, well, it's a big shift to the right. That is correct. It is a shift to the right because everything is to the right if you're far left. Everything is to the right. But how many far left people have actually been suspended or banned from Twitter now X? Zero. So it's really just moved to the center. But from the perspective of the far left, it's moved to the right. Everything's relative.
I guess maybe through
The difference in moderation.
It propagated that far left philosophy not just to America, but everywhere on Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the same level of suppression in other countries as well?
Yes.
But the Taliban is on Twitter, right?
Like, I always think of like, hey, Mr. Taliban, tally me banana. Hey, Mr. Taliban.
I mean, but there's
tally me
definitely some
banana.
people on Twitter that are...
Daylight go, man, I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the point is, from my standpoint, is that XFK Twitter should represent the sort of collective consciousness of humanity. So now that means that there are going to be views on there that you don't like or disagree with. But that's humanity. So are you going to exclude them or not? Now, I mean, if somebody breaks the law, then they kind of suspended. I mean, if they actively advocate murder, then they kind of suspended. We do have what we call like the kind of United Nations exclusion rule, which is that you can have, say, the Ayatollah, who would prefer that Israel didn't exist, for example. But he's allowed to go to the UN building in New York. In fact, generally officials from Iran do in fact go to the UN building in New York, even though they're a heavily sanctioned country. So I think that there's merit to having, just like there's some merit to the UN. One can disagree with the UN, and I think we shouldn't have a world government that we bow down to. But in fact, that's risky for civilization. But I think you do want to have the leaders of countries represented on social media.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
How much does the Cybertruck weigh?
certain error.
Depends on configuration, but it's about 7,000 pounds.
Oh.
But there's some versions, 7,000 pounds. It's like similar to, like it's a heavy truck.
Like a Ford F-250 or something like that.
Yeah.
And because of all of the metal and the weight and everything like that, but with the engines that you have, it's still, the 0 to 60 is pretty bizarre, right? It's like 3.5 or something like that?
We're aiming to get the 0 to 60 below 3 seconds.
Below 3.
Yes.
Mm,
Wow.
For
that's
the,
quite
the base
impressive.
version. So we've got a smart version. That's so there's well, I don't want to give it all away right now, but there are 3 demonstrations. One of them people are aware of, which is emptying a Tommy gun into
그래서 Cybertruck is making
a car, a shotgun,
available to customers.
5.9 mil, and no penetrations.
Wow.
And it comes that way from the factory.
Can I try with an arrow?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You think so?
I mean,
I bet I can get in there.
crossbow might.
I have a 90-pound compound bow that shoots 520 grain arrows at 300 feet per second with a razor-sharp broadhead.
We try right now if you want.
I wish I had it with me.
Um,
I don't.
Is it at your house?
Yeah.
Should we send someone to go get it? We
No,
can do the demo tonight.
that would be interesting.
Maybe I'll drive back with an arrow sticking on my car.
I bet I can get in there.
Okay, I bet you can.
Really?
Yeah, but $1.
Damn. I'd like.
I think if you have a crossbow that's with enough force, you might. A crossbow
The thing about a
might
crossbow
get
is the
through.
bolt, even though it's very fast, it's not going to be nearly as heavy. You won't have as many grains.
You can make a heavy crossbow bolt.
You could,
Yeah.
yeah, but generally crossbow bolts are considerably lighter. They're much smaller, and they're much faster. They're moving at like 400, 500 feet per second, easy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that matters is kind of the energy per unit area. So, it's interesting, like a 9 mil or 45, which is basically sort of 10 mil. The 45 is they're roughly the same, but the 45 actually slightly worse penetration than a 9 mil.
You know what? I just realized I do have some broadheads. I do have some broadheads, and I have a less powerful bow. But I have an 80-pound bow.
Go
Back
for it.
there. I think we should do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you want to do it right now?
Yeah, we can do it right
Okay,
now.
let's do it right now.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Sick.
We'll be right back.
There's a big container there.
I mean, just beware of ricochets. You might want to do it with a slight angle. You know what I mean?
No solid penetrates. Just a scratch.
Flatten the tip of the arrow. Look at the tip of the broadhead. That's impressive.
Hey, cutie.
Thank you. Well, now we know. So we just shot an arrow into it, and it barely scratched it. Barely scratched it.
Yeah.
It was probably moving 275 feet a second. That was a 525 grain-ish arrow with, even more than that, because it had a 125 grain head, so that was 545 grains. That's impressive.
I mean,
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Good,
It destroyed the
I
broadhead.
guess.
Broadhead flattened at the tip, and then the arrow blew apart.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like so you could, we have a cool video we'll show at the Hanover event next month, which is emptying an entire magazine of Tommy gun, which is like on the order of 50 rounds. Just going full Al Capone, like
And
on the
you-
side of the car, shotgun, 9 mil, 45.
And you built it like this just for fun.
Well, I
Essentially.
mean,
'Cause it's cooler?
I mean,
Because you can?
trucks are supposed to be tough, right?
Yeah.
So is your truck bulletproof?
No, mine's definitely not.
Exactly.
If I shot mine with my bow, it'd go right through it. 100%.
Yes.
100%.
So if you shoot any normal car, unlike in the movies where people hide behind car doors, car door is basically very thin mild steel. So if you shoot a gun at it through like a regular truck, it'll go through both doors. So you can't hide behind a car door like they do in the movies. You know, way back in the day, dating myself with the A-Team where they would like they'd like bullets flying everywhere and they'd be hiding behind the car door.
Right.
That doesn't work. But it does in Cybertruck.
Guys, I would ending on the Rogan's video. This to be entertaining, I guess.